Hey, welcome to Yogalates with SJ and to this 30-minute full body workout. This is a low impact workout. You don't need any equipment at all, and we're going to be working through every muscle. So when you're ready, just taking your time to come all the way down to your mat, bringing the soles of the feet to the mat and coming all the way down onto your back. We are starting by finding a neutral pelvis here. You have got a soft core engagement, bringing the shoulders away from the ears, reaching the fingertips towards the back of the heels and finding some length through the back of the neck. And as you breathe in, starting to find a core connection here, and as you breathe out, you are starting to close the ribs and sending the breath all the way back out again, and then doing that again. So breathing deeply in, expanding the ribs, the belly and the heart center, and then as you exhale out, starting to press the belly button back towards the spine. Then on an inhale, starting to reach the arms and legs long and keeping a neutral pelvis here. Ribs are closed, bringing the arms out wide, the legs out wide, everything where it is, reaching the right arm up and over to the left side as you roll the head over to that side, coming back through center and then going to the other side. So keeping the back of the shoulder blades down, keeping a neutral pelvis, belly button back to spine, and then coming back through center. And then we are starting to lift this up. So you are lifting one arm up and over, reaching, and then coming back through center and coming to the other side. So really controlling this and making sure that those ribs are closed. You've got length through the back of the neck and you're keeping everything else really still through the lower body. So we are not letting the low back lift, we're not letting the pelvis lift. We are just finding a really nice reach out through one side and then the other, coming back through center and hugging the knees in towards the heart center. And then you're just starting to open the knees out, the arches of the feet stay together, and then shifting the hips forward and then closing those knees back together, drawing the knees in and then opening the knees out as you start to press out using your hands and then squeezing in. And then we are circling back the other way. So starting to draw the knees in and then closing those knees together and then starting to shift forward and opening out again. And just letting everything connect here. So you're keeping the lower back connected, keeping the belly button back towards the spine. Now you're bringing the legs into a tabletop position, reaching the fingertips up towards the ceiling, palms facing inward, shifting the left leg out, then drawing it back in, and then bringing the right leg out, drawing it back in. Now we're going to start to bring the arms into this. So as you bring one leg out, you're reaching that same arm as leg, and then we are coming to the other side. So as you continue with this, really focusing here on keeping that belly button back towards the spine and keeping the back of the shoulders connected into the mat, and you are reaching out and drawing back and using your core to draw the knee back into that tabletop position. So you want to have the knees in line with the hips here when you come back through center, and we are just shifting the leg out as far as what you can really maintain that connection, of course. So you don't need to move this too much, making sure that you are the whole time keeping that full connection and you've got that neutral pelvis. Beautiful work. Make sure you're breathing. Nice. And then let's come back through center, bringing the hands behind the head and lengthening the legs up towards the ceiling. And we're starting to cross one ankle over the other. You're lifting the head and shoulders up, looking at the belly, and you are just crossing the ankles. So it is a tiny little cross of those ankles, keeping the legs really close together here. Ribs are closed, lifting up, but making sure that you're not bringing any tension into the back of the neck. So you are using your core to stay lifted and keeping it going. Breathing in through the nose, out the nose or mouth. Nice. And coming all the way back through center. Now we're just starting to hug the knees in and you are lowering all the way back down. letting the head and shoulders go. Coming back to bring your legs into that tabletop position, reaching the fingertips up. And this time we're starting to lower the hand down of one side as you start to lengthen that same leg as arm out. And at the same time, you are reaching the opposite arm up overhead. And again, making sure as you continue with this that you have got your ribs closed. You have got a soft core engagement here. You've got a bit of space between the lower back and the mat, so you've got a neutral pelvis. You're not tucking the tailbone under and you aren't pressing the tailbone back. You are keeping that connection of core the whole time, working at your own pace and your own range. Belly button back towards the spine, ribs closed, and breathing. Coming back through center and then just taking hold of the back of the knees, letting the legs come out wide and drawing those knees back in together. And then we're bringing that head into the hands, lifting the head and shoulders up, looking at your belly and starting to lower the legs down. So you're gluing the legs together, lowering the legs down, and then squeeze it up and lowering down and squeeze it up. So inhale as you lower down, exhale, power back up. Inhale, lowering down, and exhale, power it up. Ribs are closed, belly button back towards the spine. Keeping this going, keeping the head and shoulders lifted, length through the back of the neck, and gluing those legs together so your pelvis is not lifting. You are using your core to draw those legs back in. Nice work. Let's stay here, and we are doing a bicycle. So just starting to lengthen one leg out as you draw the other knee in, and you are twisting through the waist, bringing elbow to knee and gazing over the shoulder and coming back through center, switching sides. So you can work at your own pace here. You might want to pick this up going a little bit faster, or you might want to stay really slow and controlled with this. Just making sure that the whole time you've got that neutral pelvis, so you're lengthening the tailbone out towards the end of your mat, and you're not bringing any tension into the back of the neck. So you are really bringing your mind to the muscles of the core here, and lengthening one leg out, twisting and coming back through center and going to the other side. Nice work, doing so good, and coming back through center, lowering the head and shoulders down and lengthening those legs both back up again towards the ceiling. Starting to grab hold of somewhere on the leg, and you are lowering one leg out as you start to draw the other knee in, and it's a little pull. So as you start to lower one leg down, you are drawing the other leg in, using your core and staying lifted the whole time. You don't need to lower this down too far. You can work at your own range here, just making sure the shoulders are away from the ears, belly button is back towards the spine, ribs are closed. Make sure you're breathing, and a little pull, switching sides. Last one here, and lengthening both legs up, gluing those legs together, lowering the head and shoulders down, bringing the hands onto the front side of the kneecaps, letting the knees fall out wide, and then drawing those knees back in, and just a few little circles here in one direction, in the other, and then lowering the feet all the way down onto your mat. Finding that neutral pelvis again, gluing the arches of the feet together and starting to lift up into a bridge. So you're reaching the fingertips towards the back of the heels, and then you are starting to lower down with control. Inhale as you come up, finding a really nice lift here, and exhale as you lower down with control. So imagining that you're being pulled up by a string from the front side of the hips and not quite touching all the way down. So seeing if you can stay lifted and then lifting back up. So we are not coming all the way down, and you've got your ribs closed, you've got your core engaged, you have got the shoulders away from the ears, and this time we're going to start to lift the right heel, and you are continuing with that lift and lower. So you are lifting up and lowering down, keeping your weight even through both glutes here, and keeping the hips in the same line, so both hips are lifting at the same level, and then lowering down with control, rolling from the upper back all the way down to the lower back, Maybe you're just hovering the pelvis up here, so you're not quite coming all the way down. And then let's come to the other side. So you're lifting the left heel and pressing up and lowering down, making sure you're staying even through both sides, keeping those ribs closed, and lifting, 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 and lowering all the way down. You've got length through the back of the neck here, and you are breathing. Inhale, coming up. Exhale as you control this all the way down. This time you're starting to lift both heels up, and then you are lowering the heels down, lifting the toes back, and then coming up high onto the balls of those feet. So keeping this going, you're rocking forward and back, but you're staying with the hips lifted. See if you can come up even higher, lifting those hips up and rolling onto the heels, and then rolling onto the balls of the feet, lifting up. And then we are going to do a couple more here. Make sure that you're breathing. You're doing so amazing. And then we are staying high, staying high, staying high. Just stay here, then rolling the spine all the way down. Nice work. Lengthening the arms up overhead, and you are closing those ribs, belly button back towards the spine, and then reaching the fingertips up towards the ceiling, keeping that core engagement as you use your core to lift you up, reaching towards the knees, and then rolling the spine all the way back down, vertebra by vertebra. Inhale as you come up again. Belly button comes back towards the spine and reaching towards those knees, and then rolling the spine and controlling this all the way back down. Inhale as you come up. There's some space between the chin and the chest. Make sure you're not bringing any tension into the back of the neck. Reaching, 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 and then lowering all the way down with control. Nice work. Bringing the arms out wide, either flipping the palms to the ceiling, or you can have the palms down, and you're lengthening the legs up towards the ceiling. You've got the toes directly in line with the hips here, gluing the legs together, and you've got your ribs closed and your core is engaged. Starting to lower the legs over to the right side, drawing them back through center, and then lowering the legs over to the left side and back through center, and coming to the other side again. So we are continuing with this, making sure the whole time that you are not lifting the pelvis up. You are keeping both hips grounded down, and you are keeping everything else really still and stable throughout the body. So it is just the legs glued together as they lower to one side, coming back through center using your core, and then lowering to the other side and coming back through center. This time we're starting to just bend through those knees, and you're drawing the knees in towards the heart center, and then you are lengthening the legs back up as you lift the pelvis up, and then bending the knees, drawing the knees in using your core, and then lengthening those legs up as you do a little pelvis lift up towards the ceiling. Keeping this going, and as you continue with this, really finding that connection of core. So making sure you're not letting that go, making sure you've got your core activated the whole time, and you are using your core as well as your glutes to lift you up as you lengthen those legs up. Keeping the legs glued together. You might have the heels together, toes slightly turned out if you want to in your Pilates V. Nice. And let's come all the way back. Bending the knees and hugging those knees in towards the heart center, and any kind of movement here that feels really good, maybe moving through the toes and the feet. And then we're just starting to do a little rock up and back. So we are rolling like a ball. Hugging the knees in, using your core to roll you back, and then using that same connection of core to roll you all the way back up again. This should feel really good for your spine as well. So just letting this flow, seeing if you can use your core more than momentum to roll this, and then coming all the way back up. Starting to sit up nice and tall, bringing the legs out into a nice wide split position, reaching the fingertips to either side, shoulders away from the ears, and then you are twisting to one side, coming back through center, and then the other, coming back through center. And as you continue with this, we are just letting there be a lift out of the pelvic floor, lifting up tall, and your gaze is following the movement. So all the movement here is coming from the belly button up. The pelvis is heavy. The lower body is staying really, really heavy and still here. Finding a little bit more rotation through the waist each time that you come around, and then coming to start to reach towards the opposite toes, and then coming up and going to the other side. So reach, coming up, and then twisting through the waist as you reach opposite arm to opposite foot. Nice work, and make sure that you've got that core engagement, ribs closed, and lifting up tall through center, and then exhale as you start to reach towards those toes, seeing if you can go even further each time, finding even more length. And we are breathing in, coming up, exhale as you reach. Inhale, coming up, exhale, twist. Nice, and coming back through center. Closing the legs back up, and we are starting to flex the toes back towards the face, and you're reaching the arms up, and exhale as you float the arms down, head to knee. Inhale, bringing the arms up and lifting up tall. Exhale, belly button comes back towards the spine as you roll all the way down, vertebra by vertebra, and coming back to your back. Inhale, coming up, belly button back towards the spine, using your core to lift you all the way up, and reaching, and exhale, circle sweep the arms all the way around as you reach towards the feet, head to knee. Inhale, belly button back towards the spine, sitting up tall. Exhale, circle sweep the arms around, reaching the fingertips towards the toes, and rolling all the way down, vertebra by vertebra, and circle sweep the arms. Inhale as you come up. And we are staying here, coming straight over onto your left side. You're stacking the knees and stacking the hips and bringing your head into your hand, and you are starting to keep the knees glued together as you lift and lower that top foot up and lower it back down. It's almost as though you've got the top hip rotated inward, but we're keeping everything else in the body really, really still here. So it's just a lift up, lower down of that foot, and then we are starting to do a little clam. So just keeping the arches of the feet glued together, and you are lifting that top knee out and then lowering the leg back in. So as you continue with this, just making sure that you're lifting up out of the side waist, you're not collapsing into that supporting shoulder, and you are keeping your core engaged, squeezing out and squeezing in. Nice. Now we're going to start to lengthen the top leg out as you start to bend through the bottom knee and bringing that bottom foot forward, and then closing the legs back together again. So keeping this going, we are really finding that everything else in the body is staying very, very still here. So we are not rocking around anywhere, making sure that you are keeping those hips directly stacked, and then let's come straight over to the other side. So a quick transition, and we are coming all the way over to our right side. So stacking the knees, stacking the hips, and bringing the head into the hand, and you are lifting up out of the side waist, starting to keep those knees glued together as you lift that top foot up, and then lowering the foot back down to join that bottom foot. Keeping this going. So really, really trying to focus on keeping everything else very, very still. You're not rocking forward, not rocking back. You have got the core engaged to keep some stability here, and you are really bringing your mind to that little rotation of the hip as the hip comes inward, and keeping the knees glued together. Now let's do that clam. So starting to lift and lower that top knee out, and drawing in, really squeezing into those inner thighs as you draw the inner thighs together, and bringing that outer thigh out and squeezing the inner thigh in. Nice work, and breathing. Doing so amazing. Great job. And then let's find that lengthening out of the top leg as the bottom foot comes forward, and then drawing the knees and the arches of the feet back together. Nice. And making sure you're breathing, seeing if you can stay really still here through the whole body as you find that lengthening out of the top leg, and then really finding that reach of the bottom leg out. Nice work. Let's come all the way over to all fours. And slowly, with control, lowering all the way down onto your belly, bringing the forehead down onto the mat and stacking one arm on top of the other, gluing the legs together and lifting the legs up and lowering the legs back down. So keeping those legs glued together and lifting up, using your glutes and lowering back down and keeping this going. Continuing here, just really bringing your mind to the glutes as you use those glutes to lift up, pressing the hip bones down into the mat and then starting to lower back down. Keeping your core engaged, keeping the ribs closed. And inhale, squeezing up. Exhale as you lower down. So good, you guys. And this time we're going to keep the legs lifted and you are beating those heels together. So heels together, toes slightly turned out, and you are just doing a little beat inward with those heels, keeping lifted, really squeezing into those glutes. Make sure you're breathing, and we are keeping everything else really still here through the upper body and lifting up and lowering down. Staying here, bringing the hands next to the shoulders. Shoulders are away from the ears. Forehead comes down onto the mat. We're lifting the hands up off of the mat and then lowering the hands back down and then lifting the hands back up. Now lifting the forehead up as you come up and exhale as you start to lower back down with control. So we are lifting the hands up, forehead lifts, length through the back of the neck. Exhale as you start to lower down. Maybe you're not coming all the way down. Maybe you are maintaining that lift. So we are really squeezing into the back muscles, finding some really nice length here through the back of the neck, lifting up, using your core to lift you up. Exhale as you start to lower back down with control. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, lowering down. Nice. And then staying here, just starting to press into the hands, and you are pressing up and then floating back down. So elbows go straight back, and then inhale as you lengthen the arms up overhead. Forehead comes down onto the mat, gluing the legs together. You're lifting the leg and the opposite arm up and lower it down, and then switching sides. So one leg lifts as the other arm lifts, and then lowering down and switching sides. Maybe here with this you might want to hover the forehead up, making this a little bit more challenging. So as you inhale, lengthening arm and leg, you are hovering the forehead up, lifting up high, using your glutes and your back muscles to lift you up and keeping that core engagement, and then exhale as you lower back down. Nice. You might want to move this a little bit faster, maybe starting to make this faster as you keep everything lifted and doing a little swimmer here and breathing in through the nose, out the nose or mouth. Keep it going, maybe even faster. Really, really engaging into the core, the glutes. The whole body is getting a full workout here. Nice work. Lower it down and releasing. Forehead comes down onto the mat and letting everything go here. Just relaxing down for a moment, taking a few breaths. And then you're starting to bring the hands next to the shoulders, and you are starting to then just bring the left knee to come up towards the left hip, and you are using your arm strength, so you're pressing into the left hand to lift you up, gazing over that left shoulder, and then exhale as you start to roll all the way back through center and bringing the forehead down onto that supporting arm and coming back up and lowering back down. So as you continue with this, seeing if you can keep both hips directly pointing down towards your mat, and you are lifting up, using your core here to lift you up, keeping that connection of core as you start to gaze over the shoulder, and then coming all the way back down through center. Let's come over to the other side. So bringing the left forearm to cross the mat, bring your forehead onto that arm as you start to bring the right knee in towards the right hip, and finding that openness across the outside of that hip. And then you are pressing into that right hand as you gaze over the right shoulder, and then float it down. Inhale as you come up, finding length through the lower back. Exhale as you start to come all the way back down. And inhale, coming up, finding a really nice lengthening through the whole back. And exhale as you start to release down. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, releasing. And one more. Inhale, coming all the way up. And exhale as you float it down. Beautiful, you guys. Just releasing that leg, and we are just pressing into the mat as you start to come all the way up to your kneeling position. Starting to sit the pelvis back towards the heels as you lengthen the arms forward. Maybe the forehead comes down onto the mat here. Taking a deep breath in and a full breath out. And then as you inhale, starting to roll the spine all the way forward, lifting the gaze, lifting the heels towards the glutes, and finding a nice lengthening out. And exhale as you round back, tucking the tailbone and sitting back towards the heels, arms lengthen forward. And then inhale, belly button to spine as you start to round the spine forward, and lifting the heels towards the glutes as you find that open heart, and shoulders away from the ears. You've got that length through the lower back, and then rounding the spine, coming all the way back again. Releasing. Heart melting down. Inhale as you start to round forward. And exhale, front side of the pelvis drops down as you lift the gaze, lifting those heels up. And then we are starting to lower all the way down. So just slowly with control, lowering all the way down. Elbows go straight back, forehead comes down onto your mat, lengthening the legs behind you, and taking a moment here. Maybe bringing the feet out a little bit wider. You might bring the arms out wide, and maybe the forehead comes onto the mat, or you might bring the head to one side. Taking some really deep breaths here as you start to relax all the muscles, letting everything soften, letting go of any tension. And then if you do have your head turned to one side, you might just take a moment to switch the head to the other side. Just letting everything relax down. And then you might just bring the head all the way back through center. And then just maybe letting the arms come down by your sides. You might bring the forehead onto the mat, or you might let the head come to one side again. Just letting the front side of those shoulders relax into your mat. If you do have the head turned, you might take a moment to lift it up and place the head to the other side. Just taking a couple more breaths here. And when you're ready, just letting the head come back through center and pressing the hands into the mat. And we are just starting to lift the legs and the hands, and the forehead lifts as you start to come up. Exhale as you float down again. So inhale, lifting it up. Exhale, floating it down. Inhale, squeeze it up, gluing those legs together. Exhale as you start to float it down. Inhale, coming up. See if you can come up even higher. Make sure there's length through the neck though, so you're not lifting the gaze. You are keeping the neck in the same line as the rest of the back, and 1 or 2 more of those. And then just taking your time to come all the way up. You're all done, you guys. Well done. You have done amazing today. I hope you enjoyed this class as much as I did. Can't wait to see you again. So take care.